My world, it's good afternoon. I'm not sure how who is listening, but I just want to take a couple of minutes. I was really trying to think about how to address nutrition and skincare. And the one thing I will say is it's really a good idea for us all to take a few nice deep breaths. So preferably, if you can, if you're watching this live or watching it recorded, it doesn't really matter. I'd like you to shoulders back, and just take a few moments and close your eyes, because here is truly, truly, truly the thing that isn't talked about. I'm adjusting my camera, my apologies. That isn't talked about often enough is our breath and our breathing process. Okay. So, when we're spending the day, as I'm just holding my phone here, when we're spending the day chin forward and down, when we're rounding into the upper body and, collapsing all of this in, um, that's not taken into consideration in regards to our nutrition, our health and well-being, our digestive system, so on and so forth. So um, just close your eyes, sit. It may or may not make any sense to you, but sit in your spine, relax your face, soften your tongue away from the roof of your mouth. Chin is off of our chest. Relax your chest, relax your tummy. So you can take some really nice deep breaths right here, because that is such a huge part. Our breath is the first thing that takes in the energy around us, right? So it is the first thing that comes in. It brings in yogic speak, it's our prana, or our life force, right? So how we breathe, honest to goodness, affects how we eat. So, or how we digest, better said. So we don't ideally take those moments to really savor, if we're cooking something, to savor the process, to savor the food, to give thanks for it, to take really beautiful deep breaths, to eat slowly, so we can digest our food better. And then, even better, take a walk in nature after we eat. And if for whatever reason you can't do that, if that's just not, you don't have time, or a myriad of reasons why that might not be possible, you can sit and just take a few nice deep breaths, 2, 3, 5 minutes if possible, of taking nice deep breaths, right? So that part, because as I was reading through the questions for today's webinar, um, I really wanted to stop and think about, first and foremost, the very simple yet very underemphasized um, breathing process, right? So I just want you to, again, regardless, live or recorded, close your eyes, shoulders back and down, rest your face, get your chin off of your chest, relax your tummy. And just take a few nice, slow, deep breaths. Even if you decide in yoga, we talk about this a lot, placing our hand on our tummy and placing our hand on our heart. And first, inhale and breathe into the hand that's on your tummy. Feel that energy rise up to the hand that's on your heart. And take a nice long exhale, either through the nose or through your mouth. I kind of really like, every now and again, those beautiful exhales through our mouth to relax our tongue and our jaw. So just take a few beautiful, slow, deep breaths, right? Or better yet, if you're listening to this now or later, take deep breaths throughout the whole entire process, right? So, because there have been significant studies done on how we eat our food. It's not, it is granted, it is what we eat, but I'm kind of combining maybe some of the questions here. But studies have been shown that you can be eating the most beautiful anti-inflammatory, and I will go into that as well. But you can be eating some of the best, most healthy, nutritious foods. But if you're eating them, if you're eating that beautiful food in the car, having a difficult conversation, answering the 20,000 emails that you have to get back to, or texts, watching the news, like these all affect our digestive process. Because if you're in a high state of anxiety or maybe stress while you're eating, which often we are, right? Or we're eating on the go, or as I often, confess to myself or fess up to myself, I eat standing up. I've done it for years because I'm in a hurry, or maybe some of you can relate to this, feeding your kids. So you're kind of, you're eating what they're eating, but you're eating it standing up and you're eating it quickly. So those things all affect the digestive process. They really honestly do. There's even been studies done. This is sort of random, but it came to my mind when I was looking over the questions, that they've done studies on bunnies where they're fed the same food, except one group of bunnies is being pet while they're eating. And then when you check the digestive process, whether it's gut health through fecal matter, so on and so forth, the bunnies that were cared for and pet caressed during the eating process absorbed more nutrients. So that all being said, it's not even so much like the first question here is, what are some simple foods I can add to my diet to start seeing better skin? It's more so, can we find the time to sit down to eat our food, to really feel and appreciate the gratitude for whatever it is we're eating? Can we take deep breaths? Can we chew a little bit more? Can we take the time afterwards to feel the gratitude? And once again, take some nice deep breaths, because as our diaphragm, quite honestly, as we inhale, our diaphragm presses down and out. As we exhale, it lifts back up, right? So if we truly take a diaphragmatic breath, like I said, when you had your hand in your tummy and your hand on your heart, we are massaging the digestive system, massaging all of the organs that work to digest, starting with the lungs, right? So think of maybe like your favorite food, or something you love to cook, or something you love to go out and enjoy a meal. Smelling that food, breathing it in, breathing in. I made something yesterday for a party that I went to, and chopping up garlic and chopping up scallions and chopping up red pepper and garlic and things like that. The smell, right, of what you're about to take in, that's the first life force, energy, prana, chi, whatever you want to call it, that we take in from whatever we're going to bring into our bodies. So in answer to that question, simple foods we can add to our diet. Most of the time we're going to want to look at, as much unprocessed foods, right, as possible. Unprocessed foods and hydration are some things that, often we think we drink more water and are more hydrated than we really are, right? So trying to get in, that nice warm glass of lemon water in the morning, that helps to make our system more alkaline and better digestion. So taking in some water in the morning before you might add in your coffee or your caffeinated tea and things like that. Trying to get in those glasses of water throughout the day. I know for a fact that's really challenging for some people, because some people, and then there's a question about this on hydration, on drinking water. I have a really, really good friend who just really does not like drinking water. And so, one of the questions here that I'm sure I'll go through again is, how can I make it less of a chore to drink my water? So adding things to it, like electrolytes. There are flavored electrolytes galore out there. Creatine is another supplement that I would do my own research on if I were you. That's something that can be added to your water. There's flavored creatine. I happen to use a lemonade flavored creatine. But adding, sometimes I'll do a sparkling water instead, or adding some lemon to your water, or lime to your water. To me, it changes it, because there's also flower essence elixirs that can be added to your water. So there's a lot of ways we can make hydration more fun and less, because you see a lot of people, I never walk around with like the gigantic bottle of water, or Nalgene bottle, or, you know, whatever. It's just not my thing. But that doesn't mean that that's for you. That might be something that really helps you. See, all the personalities are so different. So um, carrying around a 32-ounce bottle and filling that up twice a day might be like, sweet, that helps me reach my goal of more hydration. Maybe that works for your personality. Maybe for you, it's making sure you get in that glass of water in the morning, mid-morning, at lunch, mid-afternoon, at dinner, before bed. You're getting in maybe more hydration than you normally do. So if you're anything like me, if you try to like overdo it at first and get in all the things right away, all the proper nutrients, all the hydration, all the so on and so forth in, it becomes overwhelming. So maybe one new habit at a time. It's similar for me for skincare. I deal with clients all the time, and I say this: I have to meet you where you're at. You have to meet you where you're at. So, in other words, if I have somebody who barely uses a product on their skin and wants to start, maybe you start with 1 or 2 products tops. See if that's something that you can integrate into your habit. Same thing with hydration. Maybe you're just really bad at drinking water. So you add in 1 more glass in the morning, or a glass in the morning, and see if you can get consistent with that, and then build from there, if that makes sense. So simple foods, I would say, again, hydration, and I'll probably mention that several times. Hydration, and as minimally processed foods as possible. And that is definitely very challenging in our on the go state of being. So sometimes I will do meal prepping, um, but you know, without getting into like recipes and things like that. It just start maybe with starting to minimize your processed foods, your boxed foods, your, you know, things like that. As I say, like shop the outer rims of the store and less on the inner portion or inner aisles of the store, if you will, because the more we go in, the more processed we get, if that makes sense. So, okay, I want to keep going. Aaron, it looks like, I've been told sugar is bad for the skin. How is it bad, really? Is it like 1 chocolate bar and I break out? So I think I love the last part of that sentence, because it used to be, and I've been in skincare for long enough that it used to be where it's like, yeah, somebody has a Snickers bar and breaks out the next day. It was the Snickers bar's fault. Chances are good, no, that's not the case. But and I love dark chocolate, and I used to be a milk chocolate and even, get this, white chocolate fan. And I've gravitated towards like your 70 and 80% dark chocolates, and there are a lot of really good ones out there. So I personally would not want to live my life without some chocolate almost daily. So but on the and the higher the percentage, right, of dark chocolate, the less amount of sugar. There's a really good brand, I think it's called Hue, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to talk brands or not, but there's some really good brands that if you look at the grams of sugar, you can have really low sugar in really good dark chocolate. And you kind of don't want to eat like a whole bar, because it's so, and it is a taste, it's an acquired taste that like over time, like I said, I went from loving milk chocolate to now just dark chocolate. Sugar, however, does cause in the system which is appropriately acronymed AGE, right? So AGE stands for Advanced Glycation Ends products. They increase inflammation in the body. So if we have a lot of sugar in our diet, it does create inflammation, and it also starts to break down the connective tissue in the body. And that is a topic of conversation we can go to at any time. But my proficiency in yoga and skincare is the muscular structure and the connective tissue of the body. And our connective tissue covers everything in the body from head to toe, skin to bone. including all of the beautiful muscles of our face and our neck. And so we cause a breakdown of the connective tissue if we have a high amount. I can't say, however many grams of sugar per day, but sugar is in everything, right? It's in our protein bars that we think are good for us. It's in our protein powders sometimes. It's in our condiments. It's our alcohol. It's like, oh my gosh, it's everywhere. It's, of course, it's naturally happening in our fruits and whatnot. But yeah, minimizing sugar is a really, really good idea. And kind of what I said earlier, it's not like going one day, maybe you're really high in, I have a friend who, has like a pint of small, maybe it's a smaller thing or something of Ben and Jerry's like every other day or something. So maybe you cut that back to once or twice a week, right? And just notice the difference in your body, in your skin, and so on and so forth. Because it's really kind of over the long term. Like a lot of times that thought process of if I knew then what I know now, there's definitely things I would have changed about my diet and the way I live my life and so on and so forth. But things come to us when maybe we can best implement them into our lives, right? Good skincare, good health, de-stressing, meditation, yoga, whatever it is. So it's bit by bit, in my humble opinion. So Sophia asks or says, I eat pretty healthy, but my skin feels dull sometimes. What could I be missing? There's some different answers to that question, but I would definitely say, looking at your skincare, you guys are here listening to this or listening to this recording, understanding that it's an excellent quality of products in this product line that is not stripping of our skin's natural acid mantle or skin barrier, right? I kid you not, I was just looking up a product for a client this morning, because a lot of times my clients will be using different product lines, and I will be looking up ingredients. And let me tell you this, it sometimes can be hard to find like the full ingredient deck, let alone be able to read everything in that ingredient deck. And so I was honest with her. I was like, there's nothing in the product that I was researching for her, nothing in it that was natural, absolutely nothing. So the quality of products, the quality of food, the quality of our breathing process, also, some light exfoliation does help, a physical exfoliant, or using like the raw silk chamois to lift off the dead skin cells. That's something that's really important for most of us. Even if it's depending on the skin type, if you have oilier skin, you want a little bit more exfoliation, especially in the summer. If you have more mature skin, somewhat dry or dehydrated skin, such as mine, and I live in Colorado, which is very dry. Usually, it's kind of nice when we get some rain, and we did this, we have been lately. It's just amazing to have like some moisture in the air, right? But I need less exfoliation because we don't want to just continually slough off the dead skin cells. But physical exfoliation, hydration, and then the things that aren't talked about often enough are, again, how we breathe on a regular basis, and also our stress, how we manage the stresses in our lives. We all have it. And stress isn't necessarily a bad thing either, right? It's how we go about moving through our lives. If we really let things, if you're a worrier like I am, we have to then go, okay, how can I decrease the worrying process? I do it often through journaling and through meditation, right? Because stress does affect our skin. A lot of times stress will affect our eating habits, coming back around to nutrition. I personally, again, am a stress non-eater, where I'll just stop eating. And other people look to food to help combat stress, right? So how we deal with our day to day, that's why for me, humbly, it's a meditation practice. It's maybe reading some things that are inspirational. It's doing some journaling. It's definitely getting out in nature and walking with my dogs and that type of thing. Um, so kind of lengthy to skin feeling dull, I would say still hydration, 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 using good quality products and gentle exfoliation. Okay, what's the connection between gut health and breakouts? I've never really understood that. That was a question. This is gonna be, I'll answer it as concisely as I can because everything comes back down to our microbiome and the health and well-being of our digestive system. So the breakouts and gut health, there's a lot to break down in that one. But I would say when we look at prebiotics and probiotics, nutrition that we put on our skin, because it is our largest organ. So the more non-processed and few ingredients that we have both externally and internally definitely help. And there's a question on inflammation, definitely help with inflammation within the system. And breakouts, it's essentially what breakouts are, is inflammation coming out on to the skin, if that made sense. I can always ask to have like continuations on these questions if we want to get a little bit more in depth. But when we look at, quite honestly, in the science of Ayurvedic study, how we digest and how we eliminate says a lot about our gut health and well-being. So I love this question. It's like, be honest. How much damage are my late night pizza runs doing to my skin? And, I love that question. I would first ask. I would ask a follow up question, like, how often are your late night pizza runs, right? Because sometimes we have to have that that indulgence, right? That late night pizza run or that uh, I'm not an ice cream eater, so I'm trying to think of something else. Um, that late night, dark chocolate, which still contains sugar, right? So we still have to live our lives, but pizza does have a tendency, depending on the ingredients, right? You're not always getting the purest, whatever, wherever you get your pizza from. The pizza sauce contains sugar, the pizza crust contains sugar. Generally speaking, you've got, I don't know what else you're putting on top of, but late night eating is not the greatest thing for us in general anyway, because our bodies are really wanting to just not digest as we go to bed. Within the Ayurvedic science realm, when we hit that 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., that's when if we're having to digest, our liver is like, oof, I'm going to have to work overtime, which might cause a more restless night's sleep because our digestive system, aside from our brain, our digestive system utilizes the most energy in our entire system. Again, it starts with maybe not I don't know about the thought of the food, but it definitely starts with the smell of the food. And as I've already stated, how we ingest, if we take it in slowly, how many of us, we got to be honest, right? How many of us like set out a placemat and a nice cloth napkin and get out a plate and some silverware and have a glass and have something set up and serve ourselves or our loved ones a meal, and then sitting down and having a nice conversation or eating in silence or listening to some nice soft music. That all aids in the digestive process. So if we're having late night pizza, that's not necessarily, if you're gonna do that every once in a while, it's not gonna have that big of an effect. But if you're gonna do that on a really consistent basis, it is gonna probably wreak some havoc on the digestive system, which we do know that if all the systems in the body are working in harmony, everything is that much better. Our hair is that much better. Our skin is that much better. Our nails are that much better. Those types of things. So, okay. Are there any quick snacks or drinks I can keep on hand that support skin health? Um, well, as mentioned before, if you're not opposed to just having water with you at all time and sipping on water, my daughter has one of those giant bottles of water, and she carries, and I see this all over the place at the gym, and I see this, clients of mine that come in to see me, they'll be carrying their water with them to make sure that they're reminding themselves to drink it. It's with them in their car. It's with them, when they go in places, when they go to work out, whatever. So for some people that works, having that on hand. That doesn't work for me. Um, and then, but I do know a lot of people who keep nuts in the car, who keep maybe dried fruits. Dried fruits have a tendency to be higher in sugar, but they're better for you than grabbing that candy bar, right? So having seeds and nuts and maybe some fresh fruit and water are great snacks to keep on hand, rather than, because I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I'll get myself really, really busy and then I stop eating and then I'm starving. And so then I go into, and I also I don't keep foods that I most grab, like chips, like potato chips. I don't keep them in the house very often because um, they're too easy. They're just too easy for me to grab. So I will grab them on an occasion and have them in the house. But I try to have more like nuts in my refrigerator and cut up fruit and things like that in my refrigerator, as opposed to the other stuff that I might gravitate towards. I did hear something recently about, and there's a question about hormones here too, but potentially as we get older and we start to hit, perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause, we start to crave sugar more. I'm not certain about the research on that because I've always kind of craved sugar. It's always kind of been like my go-to thing. And so I've really had to be very aware of that as far as the snacks that I keep on hand. So, okay. Herbal infusions, can you recommend easy ones to start with? Um, I'm not sure on that question. I kind of wrestled with that one. I am dabbling in some flower essences at the moment. I will say adding things like turmeric is anti-inflammatory. Ginger also, like if you add some freshly grated ginger to some water, excellent for the digestive system. I mentioned it earlier. This is not an herb, but I'll do warm lemon water in the morning. Doing just some turmeric in water. To me, it's more of an Ayurvedic way of doing things. Putting a half a teaspoon of turmeric in an 8-ounce glass of water doesn't taste all that bad. And it's actually anti-inflammatory to the system and a lot more economical than buying turmeric pills. So that's all I can kind of say about that. As far as, I really personally do like grated ginger in warm water, and it's excellent for the digestive system. So ginger and turmeric are two herbs that are excellent within the anti-inflammatory and digestive realm. So, okay. This was the question I was referring to earlier. I work long hours, Rachel says, and forget to hydrate. Any tips to stay consistent without feeling like a chore? So again, I think it really is personality types. For some people, they really like to carry around the big bottle. And they're like, okay, cool. I've strived for this goal of finishing one bottle today. Then maybe it's 1 or 2 bottles within the next week or month or so, right? For me, it's making sure like I have a glass, an 8-ounce glass, at least 8 or 10-ounce glass in the morning. I'll have another glass, bigger glass of water with maybe some creatine in it after a workout. I am one that will have a glass of lemon water or a glass of decaffeinated tea with clients before I start treatment. And then I have, so I will just make like a glass in the morning, a glass after a workout, a glass at lunch, a glass or 2, depending on how many clients I have, with dinner. And then, I'll take some supplements before I go to bed, which usually require another glass of water. So it kind of depends on what you look at as far as a chore is concerned, right? So maybe it's really, for you, it's going to be starting with that glass of lemon water in the morning. Add that in, because some of us get right up and we go right to our coffee, right? That's definitely, I mean, coffee is next on the list after the lemon water, but it's, that one has become a habit. And so we've got to fit things in where we feel that the consistency can be there. And then the habit is like, oh, I so love this. It does add more, because hydration, we have to remember, when we have muscle cramping, when we feel really fatigued in the middle of the afternoon, I kid you not, yesterday, long story short, we went, on a trip really quick. We had a 5-year-old with us. All he had that morning was milk and water. And then he was complaining about his head hurting. It's like, well, he hasn't had any water. So dehydration, I think most of us are more dehydrated than we think. So maybe adding just that one glass, or that one glass with electrolytes in it. There's a lot of flavored electrolytes. So hopefully that does help. But for you, the simple answer might be carry, like it's your favorite color. And I kid you not, in my daughter's case, it's that bright yellow. That's her favorite color. And so that's her water bottle. And so she just carries that with her everywhere she goes. And it's an easy one for her to just sip on throughout the day and refill it when it's empty. Okay. Tatiana, can what I eat actually affect redness or irritation in my skin? Yes, it can. As I mentioned, if we're consistently eating a lot of processed foods, a lot of foods that are high in sugar, if we're consuming a lot of caffeine, a lot of alcohol, all these things have a dehydration or dehydrating effect on our skin. Redness and irritation, it's going to depend on a person's constitution, quite honestly, because what irritates one person, there's no one answer. What irritates one person doesn't necessarily irritate another person, right? As far as if you get, I mean, some of us have a ruddier complexion, more of a red undertone to our skin just naturally via our heritage, right? So, so that question is a little bit more complex, but I would go with, I mean, a lot of people, you've heard of intermittent fasting, you've heard of the elimination diet. I myself personally have had severe eczema that flares up mildly every now and again. And I went through allergy testing and I went through the elimination diet and so on and so forth. What it really turned out for me was an eye opener in like what I was eating. Like, how many of you have gone to the refrigerator, opened up the refrigerator, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, what can I eat? Like right now I'm really bloated, or I'm really, or I have eczema, or, whatever it is. And you're like, oh gosh, what can I eat that's not going to exacerbate this problem? Right. So I've been there, done that. Sometimes it is valuable to go through an elimination diet. It is valuable to look at your eating patterns, your eating habits. For me, the eczema really stemmed from stress. There was a lot of stress in my life going on that time, and that's where it showed up on my body. Inflammation shows up differently on everybody. So it's a complex, like I said, these days, trying to be a nutritionist or a dietitian, it's one thing to set up an eating program for, say, like a hospital or a living, like an assisted living facility where you have a restaurant or whatever. I mean, I have good friends that live in one here in town, and they have a full on restaurant here in their facility. But there's somebody who helped make up that diet, right? That's different than all of the dietary choices that are out there, from paleo to keto to carnivore. That's a big one right now, to vegan. There's so many. So we have to end up going, maybe I'm going to go vegan for ethical reasons. Okay, well, how does that affect your dietary system? Because I think personally these days, one size does not fit all, and what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another person. So um, it's more like, are you eating certain foods that you're finding consistently create an irritation in your system, right? So not sure if that was how helpful that was on that question. So if I can only make one change to my diet for better skin, what would you suggest I do first? Hydrate and start to at least start to minimize, really take a look at your sugars. Like I honestly will eat certain protein bars just because sometimes you just need something quick. If you go and you look at the protein bars, how many grams of sugar as far as how many grams of protein, and then what the protein source is, and so on and so forth, there are so many things to choose from. Um, so hydration and really taking a look at the amount of sugar that's in your diet. I, again, divulging all this stuff about myself, hugely, for me, it was like French fries and ketchup. And it was really more how my French fry was a vehicle for my ketchup. Because, and ketchup is loaded with sugar. So I rarely, if ever, use ketchup anymore. It was just something that was pretty easy to omit from my diet, right? Um, alcohol, sugar, right? So how much of that is in your diet too? So, um, but I would say hydration and looking at your sugar content. So that was Claudia. Okay, Luisa, I keep hearing the word inflammatory foods. What exactly does that mean? How do I know if I'm eating them? Again, a very complex question. Um, I myself have not had my gut biome tested. Um, I think that's probably definitely coming. There are so many ways that we're trying to look at the gut health and the gut microbiome along with the microbiome of, the skin barrier. That's an important thing, right? I will go out on a limb here and say that there are a crap ton of products out there that have a lot of things that deplete or strip the skin's natural, healthy microbiome and moisture barrier, right? So there's a lot of skincare products that create irritation in the skin. There are a lot of skincare treatments that create irritation in the skin. So you can rest assured with this product line that that's not happening because it's so natural and so pure and so gentle and so um, healthy. This is the largest organ on our entire body, right? So inflammatory foods, for one person it might be gluten, for somebody else it's sugar. um, so the more unprocessed our food is, the better. You might have somebody who, like, meats are inflammatory, and so that's a very, very, very complex question. But essentially, that inflammation has to land somewhere. Generally speaking, it will land in the gut, for a lot of us, um, and that's why, um, totally just lost my train of thought. Um, that's why looking at how we digest, like, how do you feel after a meal? How is your elimination process during the day? Constipation, bloating, diarrhea, all these things play a part in a lot of times. And I had to do this when I had my eczema situation. I had to keep a food journal because I was really having a struggle with figuring out what was causing this roaming eczema. Like, it was on my arm, and then one day it would be in my face, and then another time after it cleared up, it would be on my leg. And, it was just roaming through my body as inflammation. So, and again, as I mentioned, I went through a lot of processes, um, and they were all very helpful. They helped as far as cleaning up my diet, eliminating a lot of things that I didn't need. Um, but I had to deal with the stress in my life. So that was really the main cause. What kind of breakfast would you recommend for somebody who wants clear, glowing skin? I don't think there's a perfect breakfast. The studies that I have seen as far as eating breakfast seem to be more important, especially for women. As far as when we first get up, we do have cortisol that dumps into our system. And you would, generally speaking, as women, again, this is what I have researched thus far, we need at least a little protein. You're talking to somebody who wants to get up, drink her lemon water, drink her 2 cups of coffee, and either go work out or go to work, depending on the day. Women do better, generally speaking, especially as we get older. We do better with having some protein in the morning. So that might be a protein shake. That might be having a hard-boiled egg. Um, so, and then I would just say, hydration. If you're one that does want to get up and have, your pot of coffee, that's very dehydrating to the skin. So I wouldn't say that's going to help create glowing skin. Within this side note, within these products, you are able to do a lot of your own massage manipulations, and that is something else that we'll be eventually getting into. When you use like the Gold Day Serum, and actually don't just like swap it on your skin. Like you can spend time massaging the skin and massaging pressure points on the face, moving up on the neck, so on and so forth, and massaging these muscles, over 43 muscles on the face and over 32 pressure points. So doing some facial massage is a beautiful way to have some glowing skin. I'm really trying hard to do that almost every morning. We're going to be going into, I think, a little bit more of lymphatic drainage and things like that. But even just doing your own light little massage, spend some time stimulating these muscles and working up the blood flow. So, okay. I've never really thought about food and skincare together. Can guys benefit from this stuff? I love that question, because yes, as I like to say to my male clients and my male friends, I'm like, you guys have skin too. I think what it is a lot of times men either are afraid to ask the question for whatever reason. But the skincare business has become, a multi-billion, if not trillion-dollar business, and a lot of men are having work done too. They're having Botox, they're doing fillers, they're having facials. There's skincare lines directly targeted towards men. All of that makes sense because they have skin too, and they break out too, and they get acne too, and they get aging too. It's just in our society, it's like women aren't supposed to age, and men just look more mature and better as they age, and so on and so forth. And I think a lot of times they just don't know where to go. They'll use their girlfriend's skincare products or whatever's in the shower or whatever. I would always tell my son, who would suffer from acne, especially during football season, that I'm like, the little things you do matter. He would get breakouts on his chin because of the chin strap. So I have him take alcohol swabs and swab the chin strap. I had him use these specific medicinal pads that I liked the ingredients of and swipe off his face after practice, because a lot of the times they just don't know, and maybe they're maybe embarrassed to ask and to be like, well, I'm not supposed to care about this stuff or whatever. So what we eat does have a direct effect on our skin. How we eat has a direct effect on our skin. How we hydrate, I know people that will drink, diet soda all day long, and that's their quote unquote hydration. So these things do go hand in hand because, as I keep mentioning, your skin is the largest organ of the body. It breathes, right? So this is why I was saying earlier, facial massage is a thing. You can't have a facial every day, as much as that might be really nice to do. Can't necessarily have a facial every day, but you can massage your own face every day with these beautiful products. You can massage in the cleanser. You can massage in either of the serums or both. You can, just take a little bit more time to stimulate the muscles of the face. And then taking a hard look at what you eat and how you eat, because they do They are important. So, okay, this is the last question here. Is there a best time of day to eat skin supporting foods for maximum impact, like morning versus evening? Um, in my humble opinion, not necessarily. There's not like do this in the AM as far as food is concerned. That was his question about eating skin supporting foods. So, there are foods that are high in antioxidants, but those can be eaten any time of day, right? Eating your strawberries or your oranges or your blueberries or, all of the colors. Watermelon is very hydrating. Celery is very hydrating. I will often juice these. FYI, if you like watermelon, because we're coming into, the season of having good watermelon here, juice the rinds, juice watermelon rinds. They actually taste really good, and it's a way especially if your watermelon is organic, the rinds, you can juice those, and they're actually really good. So there's not really a best time of day. It's more just like, I think to sum things up, because I have to reflect upon myself, being really honest with yourself, right? I like to think I eat really, really healthy, and I got to admit there are times I struggle with that for a variety of reasons. Too busy, didn't get up early enough, have an event to go to, whatever. So we start to take a look at where we're drawing our lines. Where are our non-negotiables, if you will? It's non-negotiable that I'm going to get up in the morning and have my lemon water, or it's non-negotiable that I'm going to minimize or eliminate alcohol, or whatever it might be for you. It's more being really honest about, not just what I eat. That's definitely a big factor, but also how I eat. I try really, really hard, and it is hard for me to not eat standing up. There's a doctor that I've followed for years, and the way he terms it is eating standing up is like death looking over your shoulder. And I'm like, ooh, that doesn't sound great. However, I think about that, and so then I go, okay, I can pull up a chair, even if I'm at my counter, my kitchen counter. I can pull up a chair, or I can come over and sit at my bar, or whatever. I can make the effort to sit down. It's really not that hard. And I don't eat in the car, because that is a habit that never became a part of my life. But for somebody, it might be, that's their thing, right? You see it all the time driving down the street, and people eating a cheeseburger or eating whatever. That was very specific. I don't know why. Eating whatever in the car, right? Maybe that's the habit that you go, oh, wow, I do that a lot. Maybe don't do that. Or I eat at my desk reading over my emails, right? Pick a different time to read over your emails. Or, as we all do, these guys, right? Our lovely phones. We'll sit and we'll scroll while we eat. So being honest with ourselves and going, okay, how much of that do I really do? And can I make it more of a priority to slow down, to chew my food, to have gratitude for whatever it is that I'm eating? Because here's the thing, how much of the time do we eat something and then feel totally guilty for eating it? Like, there was these really great looking cookies last night at this thing that I was at, and it was like, I kind of want one, but I don't want one that bad. But if I would have eaten one, nowadays I stop and think, I go, I'm not going to feel guilty about eating that cookie. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to only have one. And that's it. Right? But how much of the time do you eat something and then go, oh, I shouldn't have eaten that. Now I feel really guilty. Do you think our body's really going to digest that well? After we now feel guilty and we have that feeling of remorse for taking in whatever it was we just took in, that basket of fries that you cannot put in front of me without me eating them. That's just not going to happen. So I can go, okay, I'm really going to enjoy these and not feel guilty for it. So on that note, I want us to, again, take a moment to sit, to relax our chest, to relax our tummy, to close our eyes. If you're anything like me, I'm almost consistently pressing my tongue into the roof of my mouth. So relax your tongue, your jaw, your mouth. Only if you want to, you can place a hand in your tummy and a hand on your chest. Take a deep breath in, trying to feel that inhale in the hand in your tummy first, all the way up to the hand that's on your chest. And a nice open mouth exhale. Do that one more time here, please. Even if you can add that habit in of 5 deep breaths before you have whatever it is you're going to have, and then maybe the 5 deep breaths after you have whatever it is you're going to have, that's something. That is something that helps with the digestive process, that helps nourish our skin. Because again, this is the largest organ we've got. So, okay. On that note, it is 12:51. I can certainly stay if there's any questions. If there's not, then I will sign off and look forward to next time. Okay. Thank you.